city shows when you're trying to give your honey every city show it all. My kids is money spinning. Show me that the shit on spin. You know it's all out here for a G. Shows when you're honey. Is it really? Some crazy things from these streets, just the mirrors. That was Krakamiko, Simp, in honor of Akaash Singh, comedian. This backpacking season of 7 months, I spent 2 in India. I'm also a fan of Akaash Singh's comedy. That's why Indians still be stressing me out, even after a few weeks back at home in Canada, decompressing. My fellow Canadians, Abba and Preach, Greg Doucette, and many other vloggers, YouTube personalities, etc., have reacted to the Akaash Singh, Jasleen Singh marriage controversy. I reacted too a couple days ago, and as is usual with my style of vlogging, something out there in the ether webs has caused me pause, caused me to reflect a lot about my own life. I've realized that I have a lot to sort through myself, and I'm using Jasleen Singh as a template, as a way for me to ask myself deep questions. But to start with, I buried the lead last time, and I'm going to address it upfront this time. Comedy. Okay? There are many disagreements I have with people, comedians that I respect. Akaash Singh's one of them. Okay? I still identify as a left progressive, antinatalist, child-free woman. I'm single and will remain so. No marriage, no kids for the rest of my life. I've known this fact about me since I was 12. The comedians I follow have a wide-ranging smorgasbord of different opinions. In fact, I actually attended Dave Chappelle's concert comedy performance just over the weekend. And Dave went hard on the same groups of people that he's been going hard on for a number of years. Almost to the point that it's hack, to be honest. But guess what I allowed Dave the benefit of? Creative artistic license. Okay? Dave still made trans jokes and made Chinese jokes, all the other. To clarify, I am born in Canada, but of Hong Kongese descent. So I'm shocked at the amount of creative license that they allow Akaash as a professional comedian, as opposed to Jasleen, his wife. And I've noticed this trend even in some interceding footage that I've viewed of streamer awards where an Asian woman named Fan Fan was helping to host. I think there's a trend here. Men definitely have a lot more comedic creative license than women do across all boards, and I think Jasleen has gotten caught up in this. Now, you'll argue with me, well, Akaash Singh, Dave Chappelle, these are professional comedians. No. I think being a professional comedian, for sure, that makes it patently clear that they are using comedy as their job, as an art, but normal human beings, Jasleen being one, me being one, can use comedy as well. Now, I've never argued that the audience, and by audience, I just mean the people who are receiving jokes, has to like what you are joking about and has to like you. But I think that to come down so hard on these women as if everything they're saying is literal truth is disingenuous. For the same reason that I still allow Dave Chappelle creative license and even American Eagle, Sydney Sweeney. I agree with none of them politically, but I mean, Sydney Sweeney has good genes. Genes, yes. Jeans, no. That's actually why I think the American Eagle ad was meh for me. Because if the G's were good in both respects, I'd understand. But the product that they were trying to advertise ain't even good. They actually took somebody, a bombshell, with a smoking hot ball like Sydney Sweeney and made her look like an average woman. Like, if anything, the disservice to the Jeans, the genes themselves, who should have been the ones complaining and been up in arms. Okay, so can Jasleen Singh have been making jokes and still be a virgin? Absolute resounding yes. I'll speak to that as a virgin myself. Abba and Preach the other night went live for several hours, and that's partially what I'm responding to more. Maybe that was a Patreon special or something that they will release later, but a couple nights ago, Abba and Preach went live, and their question was, should a virgin or someone who had maintained virginity up till her current partner, who ended up being her husband, be talking and joking openly about it? Yeah. They seem to imply that, well, virginity is a sacred promise that you make, and it's a covenant that you never talk. What are you talking about? As I mentioned before, the most exact, precise definition of virgin, according to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, is, in the heteronormative sense, a woman who's never had a penis penetrate her vagina. That is it. Okay? Merriam-Webster also has a wider definition, which is a woman who's never had a penis penetrate her anus or mouth, but technically the exact precise definition is vaginal virginity. Okay. Nowhere does it specify that you also have to take a secrecy covenant. Okay. Now, maybe some religions and cultures err more towards that. I understand that some religions and cultures do. But to imply that, oh, the fact that you're talking about it so openly definitely makes one question whether you really could be one. I mean, that could be true, but it's also the case that people can talk absolutely wild shit about sex and still be a virgin, i.e. me, okay? to answer as well, I am a virgin in the widest possible definition of the word. As in, I have never had a penis penetrate my vagina, anus, or mouth. Okay, so I've used none of my holes, and I talk wild mad shit about sex. In fact, I'm in the kink community. Okay, so how do we square all these circles? Humans are complicated. Okay, and part of why Jasleen's comedy worked is the following. Okay, she popped her pussy in these white boy frat houses. This is one of the jokes that people contest. Okay. Oh, well, I mean, clearly then she was lying about her virginity to Akaash. And here's the thing. This is how a sexual double entendre works. Okay. You have multiple definitions of the term poppin' my pussy. Poppin' my pussy can actually refer to dancing. It can refer to twerking. And it can also refer to sexual acts. Why that sexual double entendre actually works is because she could have been dancing in these white boy frat houses, but never doing the sexual acts. Now, which one was she truly doing? Herein lies the sexual double entendre. My bet would be she was mainly dancing. But why did she use the term poppin' my pussy? Because it's ambiguous. Leaves open that maybe she was actually fucking in these white boy frat houses. Okay? That's actually a successful use of double entendre. Because if she had just strictly used dancing in these white boy frat houses, would she have had the attention that she's now on? And yes, I think the larger purpose was the attention. So in watching them defend on the Flagrant podcast with Andrew Schultz, Marquis Gags, this is where I myself thought that they used the wrong approach. Okay. I think if you were trying to make sexual double entendres, you stand by them. Okay. So if I were Jasleen and that's what I was trying to do, I would stand by that. Be like, hey, listen, I was simply dancing in the white boy frat houses, but I used the term poppin' my pussy because it could imply the other, and I'm trying to be a comedian. I'm trying to use sexual double entendre, and I got what I wanted. Okay? For example, when Dave Chappelle mentioned on the weekend trans again, I was more like, this is well-trodden hack territory for him already, but my impression was he understands that and he's bringing it up as if he knows too that this is hack on his part. Okay? So that was cool. He brought it up. Now, here's the funny thing about the Dave Chappelle concert, if you will. There were actually people around me where certain jokes seem to have fallen flat. I would overall rate that this Chappelle performance was a solid B, as in the laughs were consistent, they kept coming, but I'm wondering where the disconnect was with the audience, because at least in the immediate surroundings of me, in the nosebleeds, the laughs were about 50 to 75% of what I was laughing at. I mean, even a slam dunk where he referenced Canadian Lorne Michaels, the creator of SNL, only got me clapping? Then is this a disconnect of lack of knowledge? My opinion would be, I think anyone who knows anything about comedy, especially as a Canadian, should know Lorne Michaels. Now, I've been a hardcore SNL fan since I was young, and maybe that affects the way I view things. For example, I was an original viewer. I viewed live sketches such as Will Ferrell Cowbell, Justin Timberlake Cock in a Box. Okay? So I'm that era. Chris Kattan. Molly Shannon, that era, Will Ferrell, and I guess I was a little bit surprised. Also, when DJ Trauma spun opening for Dave Chappelle, he played a ton of DMX, Party Off, Rough Riders anthem. Nobody around me knew. Maybe this is a generational gap. So, in that, I'm describing that art is subjective. Even at a fucking Dave Chappelle concert, you're having various level of laughs. So obviously someone like Jasleen trying to make a sexual double entendre, it's going to hit with some people, maybe was a bit more of a bomb with others, but so the fuck what? Then a ton of mostly men took it out of context as if, oh, she must be lying about her virginity if she joked about popping her pussy at a white boy frat house. Or she talked about men going down on her, blah, blah, blah. None of the acts that she mentioned would contradict her status as a virgin. Because a virgin, even by the widest definition of the term according to the dictionary, is a dick has never gone in your vagina, anus, or mouth. Okay? Some religions are actually freer in a sense. They only define the vaginal virginity. So there's a number of religious, cultural virgins who actually use what I've always affectionately called the loopholes, the asshole and the mouth hole. Okay? None of what Jasleen specified actually violates any of it if you take her as making sexual double entendre. So, for example, if she was dancing and twerking, also known as popping your pussy, in these white boy frat houses, she can still be a virgin doing that. And even if a dude went down on her while she was spotting on her period, still a virgin. Okay? Now, some people would question, well, I mean, you're participating in sexual activity, and this is where we can have an argument. Okay? As the Horley virgin, I can talk significantly about this. Okay? I still think Jasleen, to me, can have been a virgin until being with Akaash while making the jokes that she made. And even if the jokes were a bomb, maybe you found them less than funny, like some people found Dave Chappelle's trans jokes recently less than funny. At most, you would chalk it up to subjectiveness in art. I laughed at all of Dave's jokes, most of them. I clapped for Lorne Michaels' reference, SNL creator, when nobody else did. Okay? But I think that even with Dave, might be disingenuous to go that he's full out transphobe. I followed Dave for a number of years now. I mean, even maybe if he was, that's for him to figure out on his own. He addressed taking Saudi money. That's for him to address on his own. As in, I've never claimed that I have to fully like everybody that I follow artistically. No big deal to me. So then, to address how can you be a virgin, i.e. me, and yet joke so raunchily, be such a filthy mouth about sex as an act? There's nothing preventing it. As in, I am probably an anomaly, because Akaash and Jasleen, from what I understand, are more religious and cultural virgins. So they have a greater community, perhaps, that they feel an allegiance to, that they want to keep things under wrap. But I have absolutely none of that shit. I'm secular. I have no religion. So personally, why I've stayed a virgin has been literal risk-reward analysis and efficiency of time. Okay? I never fell under the biological, cultural, religious propaganda that dick going in holes is somehow a worthwhile activity. Okay? People around me seem to think that. Maybe people in the wider population seem to think that. But for me, dick going in holes has to be weighted against any other activity you could do with your time. So in my lifestyle, I mentioned that I'd just done 7 months backpacking, 2 months in India. All right. All right. So sticking a dick in my holes, guess what it has to compete with? This is what I did in the 7 months backpacking. Okay. All right. I completed my 75th scuba dive. I added how many new countries? Let's count them out together. Sri Lanka, Maldives, India, Ethiopia, Comoros, Madagascar, Mauritius, Seychelles, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Bahrain. 11 countries. Okay. I did have sperm whales echoes go through my body. That was an amazing experience. I swam with fucking sperm whales. Okay. I observed wild lions. No, fuck. That was in 2018. But I added big cats, leopards, tigers, which are rare in India. So, guess what Dixon holes as an activity has to compete against? All of these other activities. Okay? So, no offense to all you fucking basic bitches out there, and bitches can be men and women. Y'all ain't on this level. Okay, go fit your dicks in holes, and I'll be out there swimming with sperm whales, trekking with wild animals. I mean, just like the level. We're talking, there's levels to this game, bitch. And I'm at that level, and you're sort of down here stuck on, should I put a dick in this hole or that hole or that? Okay, it is what it is, I guess. But aside from the fun factor, there's the risk analysis that I have to do. So every activity goes through this risk versus reward. And from this discourse, you can tell I have an extremely logical, practical, quantitative brain. And yes, I do. My undergraduate is in electrical engineering. Okay. I also am a designated accountant. Although retired from career now, I ran my own technical writing business, marketing writing business, and now I fuck off and just do whatever I want all the time. Right. But risk reward is something that you have to do with everything in your life. As in, there is no automatic activity, and this is what I've always contested with people. Sex, dick going in holes, ain't an automatically win activity. At best, it starts neutral, like every other activity, because you want to be dispassionate and objective and assess it properly. But then you will go pros, cons, risks, rewards. And for me, my calculus is dick going in hole risks far, 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 far outweigh the rewards. And that's why I've never done it. Okay. So risks are many. Pregnancy, which is the worst possible STD because I am an antinatalist child free woman. Then all the other actual diseases. Okay. Versus, I'll be honest with you, if you've ever checked the stats on orgasm, penis in vagina, women's orgasm rates versus men's penis in vagina orgasm rates are a wider chasm than the Grand Canyon. 95 for men and around 20 for women. So what are you gaining by inserting a penis into your body? Just straight out question. What are you gaining? Okay. even if you could orgasm, guess what? I've been an orgasm queen since age 6. So I was one of these lucky people, as you might be able to tell with my adventurous lifestyle, climbing up trees, climbing up furniture, climbing up this and that when I was young. And one time I climbed up just the right way, rubbed up on something just the right way, where I was like, what the fuck is this feeling? Now, at 6 years old, I was too young to understand what this was, but I called it the tickle of truth. And that's how you can tell I would be interested in writing all these years. Like, that's my best term that I've ever made up, and I come back to it often. But yes, I had an orgasm. And my mom was the ballerest baller, because she found out that this was happening and she took me to a doctor. And the first concern was that somehow I'd been sexually abused by someone, because how does a 6-year-old come up with this kind of situation? I explained what it was, that this happened by accident, but I really, really, really like the feeling. So instead of shaming me, because as I mentioned, we have no religion, all my mom mentioned was, okay, this is something that you do, but only for you yourself, okay? You can do this thing to yourself, but nobody else. And I took that to heart. And she added some more constraints as I got older. I think maybe a year or two later, I did it while she left me in a car. So my mom was never perfect. Did she do everything right? No, left me in a car by myself, but encouraged me to masturbate. You're gonna take A with B, right? So when she came back and found me in the car doing it, luckily outside of window shot of other people, she added the caveat, you by yourself in private. Okay. So my leading theory as to why I am the way I am is perhaps I had a genetic leg up in a sense. I think I already had a predisposition leg up, but this was an extra way that I was wired before I hit puberty. I understood orgasm to be something that I do for myself, and something I do very well and very pleasurably for myself. So to me, when other people started needing this feeling and somehow connecting it to being penis going in holes making this feeling, I contested that. Okay. I questioned whether that had to be the case. As early as even in grade 1. And this is where we're going to get into some complicated issue regarding women's owning their own sexuality versus being conditioned to accept men being part of that. I remember in grade 1 kindergarten, near that time, we had magic carpet reading time. And in magic carpet reading time, we would all sit in a circle. This was in Edmonton, Alberta, where I was born. And this is, I think, honestly, an indictment of how they used to run schooling back then. The indictment is that when we were sitting in the circle, we would always rotate, so there were no fixed assigned seats. There was a young boy whose name starts with C, so I'll just say C. C had a reputation, which is whoever C was sitting next to, he would touch you down there during magic reading time in front of an entire room of other children and a teacher. And he would usually do it sneakily under dresses, because back then, even I, a tomboy, wore a lot of dresses. So because I understood that touching down there was a private affair for me to do myself, I never let him touch me. but a lot of the other girls did, and that was problematic, to be quite honest. And I still think largely back to how women are just conditioned to be detached from their own bodies, as if their own bodies are some sort of communal area, but not too communal. And there's these extremely complicated, long-standing beliefs. So the bottom line would be, uh, people just have no fucking clue what they're doing, quite honestly. And for me, I've always been the type of person who's questioned, and that includes questioning why the fuck are people having sex. So now there's a pushback of even some so-called progressives, like a Scott Galloway. Listen, buddy, Andrew Tate, all of these dudes. Biology is simply describing what currently is, but has never prescribed what ought to be. So what? So what if a non-thinking process like evolutionary biology has brought us to whatever time point that you want to be brought to? Here's where my antinatalism comes out. Who the fuck cares if population is collapsing? Why does this need to keep going? So the point is, yeah, question all of these strange underpinnings, strange situations. And the reason why Jasleen has brought my attention to this is because I do see there is a level of misogyny happening. Just like there was a level of misogyny happening with Fan Fan. As in, if you look at the history of comedy, part of what makes comedy fun, but also edgy, is the fact that people are willing to take these risks. And for the longest time, because there's been mostly men as professional comedians, we've given comedians this artistic license. And now that some women, whether they be professional comedians or just normal people, there's a question about whether they should have that same license. And the answer is absolutely yes. Now, of course, the counterpoint would be, what the fuck are you talking about? Will Smith smacked Chris Rock and they're both men. And that couldn't be the case too, but there's a question here where we honestly have to wonder, and maybe this is, for clickbait rage, why there are more people questioning Jasleen Singh than the current government that's running that country. Like, why should Jasleen Singh have to have an honesty in her words? First of all, nobody can prove that she's lying. Second of all, as a civilian making jokes, there's no authenticity. Even as a professional comedian making jokes, they can fucking lie out of the wazoo for creative, artistic purposes. And that's the question. Are you allowing people to be creative artists or not? And some people will throw back, well, it depends if the joke is funny. No, because jokes being funny are subjective. That's why intent is the most important. And my point of view, whether you're a Sydney Sweeney ad and completely opposite to my political views, or you're a Jasleen Singh, if people are trying to make art, I allow them the license to make art. And that's that. So, I mean, there we go. There we go. A couple of days ago, I discussed some of these topics in a riff, which made me realize that I had more to discuss in a riff, and this is my longer riff, combining everything together because I've been feeling this way for quite a while now. I've been debating a lot of things for a while now. For example, the hair is growing back out, and anybody who actually knows me in real life knows that I have gone through an extremely schizophrenic back and forth about my hair and how I present. In fact, one of my really good friends has commented about me that I'm essentially titrating my own physical appearance for the male gaze, but in a different way than most women would be. Most women invest a lot of time to look good. They wear makeup, they wear clothes, they do this and they do that. The argument is that I spend the exact same amount of time making myself the most unattractive as possible. And that is probably true because going back to this entire question about risk reward, pros and cons of dick going in holes. Male attention is extremely difficult for me to manage when it is overtly and solely sexual. I grew up in primarily male spaces. I'm an electrical engineer. The ratio of men to women is easily 9 or 10 to 1. I fought combat sports when I was younger. I've been in a lot of male spaces and I've gotten a bro pass in a lot of them because I enjoyed comedy and I was like the little sister. And I also maintained quite the tomboy appearance. But around the time that I was thinking and experimenting around with my looks, around the time that I was getting into kink, I also grew my hair out. And there are many videos of me with my hair down to my butt. And the attention was quite simply overwhelming. Overwhelming to the point where even to this day, I have no idea I know how to handle it. Okay. So, especially having that level of long hair, even wearing no makeup at kink fetish festivals, the amount that I was approached with left me no room to breathe. Absolutely no room. So essentially, the trail went something like this. Okay. I met somebody in South America that made me question my originally stated stance of being asexual, aromantic, as in no interest in sex, no interest in romance. I've since realized that person was a creative muse, but because in normal parlance and conversation, there's no such discussion about what is romantic versus creative versus this and that. I had to struggle through all of these definitions. Why am I actually reviewing everything now? It's because only now, many years later, do I have an answer to this question. If I were vlogging then, I think my mindset would have been different. And I actually did write an entire series that encapsulated my feelings during that time that I released already. But essentially, I met, we'll call him V. I met V when I had an extremely punk rock hairstyle, half shave. And we had good conversation, got along, and he was fucking gorgeous. So I thought to myself, gee, I wonder what would happen if I met V again and I actually looked like a girl, more feminine. So I did. Just as, for fuck's sake, I grew my hair out, met him again, and when I met him, I told him that I feel something, verb, towards you, but I have no idea what this is. And now, many years later, I know what it is that he was an extremely inspiring, creative muse. But, I mean, I could tell the absolute difference in me being half-shaven punk rock versus me with long hair. So, he leaned in to kiss me, and I turned away because I had no clue what I was feeling at the time. But that caused me enough confusion in myself that I realized, okay, there's something here I had to explore. By that age, I had never even kissed anybody. Okay, so we're talking about in my early 30s, never even considered it. And why? Again, because I put sex, relationships, all of it into my risk reward calculation matrix, and it always ended up being a loser. Okay. My challenge would be, where would I have fit any of that in? Okay. I was in high school, for example, busy deriving Newton's laws of physics and any other physics, math equation I was handed, from axiom or original experiment to current formulas. Okay, so I was, in other words, a mathlete, and I ended up studying electrical engineering. So in between that, chemistry, physics, math, English, including philosophy, studying the greats like Camus and Kafka, rock music, playing guitar, running track and field, fighting martial arts. Where was sex and relationships going to insert itself? In a way where I could do all of those things at the highest level, i.e., be the top student in all of those. You're never going to be able to do it. So I picked all of these other things as opposed to sex and relationships, and it's largely been a good play because I still maintain that my level of mastery in everything that I've ever done has been because there's a large portion of my life that I excised out. Okay? But when I was in my 30s, well into my adventuring, traveling, sporting career, is when I started meeting gorgeous men that made me think and question, what the fuck was this? So then I had to wonder and ask myself. And part of the wondering and asking myself brought me to the kink and fetish community. I'd stayed with a nudist who happened to be also an erotic photographer and in the kink community. We did 3,000 photo shoot in the natural wilderness. And I'm so happy with this photo shoot. Capturing me, no makeup, all natural in nature. So much so that I show these pictures, which a lot of them are nudes, to people, including men. And I can show them without it being me flirting because I'm just so absolutely proud of how I present myself in my true authenticity in photos and as a person. Okay. So, and here's where I've gotten blasted by people before, which is mostly by women. You look fucking phenomenal naked. Of course you would be okay and feel overjoyed at yourself. Okay, well, I'll take the compliment underneath there, because I was trying to represent that if you can be true and authentic to yourself, this is where the love comes from. The love that you think sticking a dick in your hole is going to give you actually comes from you loving yourself. And when I started to represent this side of me, I got a lot of pushback, mainly from women who basically appreciate the sentiment but negged me, as in, it'd be easy to be so confident when you look phenomenal naked. Okay, okay, fine, fair, whatever. But I never let that bother me because I am 100% proud of that photo shoot. And I was also proud of me representing myself authentically. So, on that person's recommendation, since I was already posing nude and comfortable with it, he encouraged me to explore kink. And I had no clue whether I would enjoy it. I had no clue whether I would like it. But when I started with long hair, wearing some more feminine clothing, and being in spaces where men were, including never a white boy frat house, but something equivalent to that, the attention was absolutely overwhelming at my first kink event because I decided, what the fuck, might as well go on stage and perform, even though I had never done such a thing. The number of people that then lined up to talk to me to ask me to do private scenes with them at the kink event was more than I could handle. I literally had zero time to myself to even think, because as soon as I got off stage at my first kink event, there were people approaching me left, right, and center. And before you are going to accuse me of having them all be white boys and only accepting white boys or gorgeous, tall, ripped, handsome men, there were a range of people: Asian men, women, old, young, white boys. And I never turned anybody down, except for ones that outright asked me for sticking their dick in my whole sex. Other than that, I've never turned anyone down. And then after the original fetish events that I attended, this is where things started skewing in a certain direction. Jasleen, I think, has also taken heat for the fact that she mentioned that they were white boy frat houses, because they could have been other frat houses, I guess. Like, frat houses have other people in them too, but she specified white boy frat houses. Again, I think she did this intentionally because she was trying for attention. There has been a long-standing question about Asian women and white men. And here's where I delve into that, I guess. I'm happy. Too fucking bad for anybody who complains how long I'm going. I'm going off the cuff, addressing everything I think I need to address, because I am also in a creative mindset right now. I'm about to create some art. I have no clue what the art will be. Maybe a continuation of my Slutty Sundays series, which has been, in my opinion, wildly successful. Something that people have asked me to continue again and again and again, and I've had no time because I've been too busy adventuring. So, let's address the white boy frat house thing. As I mentioned before, I am Hong Kongese ethnicity. Technically Chinese if you must be technical, but born in Canada. Some people think, oh, like, clearly she's an Auntie Lou. An Auntie Lou is apparently like the Uncle Tom, but for Asian women. You white worship, you have internalized racism. Oh, no, actually, my mom was one of the first generations of Chinese people to actually be professional in Canada. Okay, so the joke was we went from railroad Chinese to my parents who worked in the government. in the government, she experienced a lot. So we're talking about a woman in the 70s and 80s, university degree in business, studying for her accounting designation, and married, and then subsequently pregnant with me. So on paper, and actually in practice, she was an extremely educated, skilled individual. Her white male boss was not. If you were talking about people who got their jobs because they were there, he was the definition of it. But did he know this? Maybe. Did he care? I have no clue. All I know is that he exerted his power on her in ways that we would now call sexual harassment. In particular, there was a Christmas party where he drunkenly tried to kiss her, and she refused him because she was married and he was married. And after that rebuffed advance, shit started to get wild. As in, he fucked with her career in ways that now probably could have been lawsuitable. In fact, my mom had discussed before about whether she would file a lawsuit. Given that situation, ever since I was young, my mom has specifically requested, almost demanded, no white boys ever. They are stupid. They get to their positions with no credentials and no competence. And I can see why she felt the way that she felt. Now, she made a broad-based statement about white men, given her situation, but things got extremely bad because when my mom was complaining about her experience working, my dad basically told her, bitch, shut the fuck up. Like, we have high paying jobs in the government. I have no idea what to tell you. I know that this looks bad, feels bad, but we might have to play the game in white man's land, man. And my mom was seething. She was livid about this. And things came to an absolute fucking eruption during a subsequent next year's Christmas play. I was in government daycare, and for some reason, maybe the daycare coordinator wanted to be progressive. So imagine her casting me, little Asian girl, as Snow White. Okay, so, or was it Cinderella? Which one is the one where she sleeps and the kiss? It's Cinderella. Cast me as Cinderella. Okay, cool. So, guess who played the prince? A little white boy. And guess what we were doing? We were actually kissing in rehearsing this play. But remember, I'm young. I have no clue what the fuck's going on. I had no clue that this was a problem. Teacher told us to kiss, so we kissed. As our school went to present this play, I recall distinctly the moment that he goes to actually kiss me. My mom stands up in a furor in the middle of auditorium, might have screamed something, and stomps out. I later remember attending some sort of conference where my father, my mother, the daycare coordinator, and me were discussing why the fuck are you asking little kids to kiss each other? So I was absolutely socialized when young. No white boys. Absolutely none of them. In fact, my mom went to all manners of hell back in Edmonton to find Asian people for us to interact with. When I was young, all I was surrounded with were Asian boys. For whatever reason, the only Asians she could find all had boys. There was only one girl, and if I can count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 boys. Okay. So I hung around Asian boys my whole life, even in Edmonton where Asians were rare. Then I moved to Vancouver, which is, I believe, per capita where I live, the most number of Asians in North America. So actually, when I had tiny itty bitty crushes on boys, they were all Asian boys from when I was young. Now, I had promised my mom, no worries, no white boys for me. In fact, no boys in general, because I was already starting my academic track and knew I had no time for this. But my mom, just to seal the deal, when I was preteen or teen, showed me a movie, Mark Wahlberg in Fear, in case I had any questions about where my allegiances should be. That movie has caused PTSD in me until now. I am still afraid of fucking Mark Wahlberg. Like, seriously, Mark Wahlberg scares me. That's how accurate his portrayal was in that movie. But that movie was odd, strange, because Mark Wahlberg did a lot of sexy things in that movie until he just lost his mind. There's a famous roller coaster scene where he fingers Reese Witherspoon, and that was hot as fuck until he lost his mind, including beating people up, giving himself a tattoo, killing a fucking dog, and went off the rails. So to this day, I have had to do Mark Wahlberg exposure therapy. I watched Ted with some squirming, and I have even just a couple of days ago tried to slow dose myself to that movie Fear. But my mom, she did an absolutely phenomenal job. It's like, white boys, they're psychos, they're stupid, and to be quite honest, aside from maybe thinking that Ryan Reynolds and Ryan Gosling were handsome ass in a celebrity way, I had no clue that I even had interest in white men at all until I was in my 30s, and it came as an absolute jaw drop. My mom and I had no idea how to handle it. I mean, slowly, after my dad, who's also ethnically Chinese from Hong Kong, fucked us over, then it was all men fucking suck. So she had opened up by then. But we actually had absolutely no clue that I was interested at all until I was in my 30s and started traveling. Because where I live, there's just a lot of Asian people and men. I mentioned electrical engineering. That department was 99% Asian students. There was maybe one white guy, the dean's son. I attended a lot of rock concerts, and that's maybe where I met some white people as well. I watched MMA at casinos, but these white boys were weird. Like, they were simultaneously nice at first and then oddly arrogant and ridiculous. For example, I think they would never dream of asking any other person this, but for some reason, I was often accused of just liking bands because the lead singer is cute. Okay. Never mind that I actually play guitar. Never mind that I know the history of rock better than most people. In fact, one story, Blockbuster, I was renting Some Kind of Monster, which was the Metallica documentary. And often what would happen to me when I was younger was if I were at a rock concert or watching MMA, there'd be a comment because I'm by myself doing these things by men, which usually white men, which would be, "Oh, your boyfriend's awesome. He's watching this Metallica or this thing," and this blockbuster be like, "Well, I'm actually single. I'm watching Metallica for myself." And then, okay, so Metallica was cool, right? 1 second ago when you thought my boyfriend picked this movie, but when you found out it was me, suddenly this guy switched. It's like, well, actually, Metallica's pretty light, you know? It's Megadeth and Dave Mustaine all the way. Metallica is not hard enough. And me, and this is my comedy, replied with, "Your dick's not hard enough," and walked out of the blockbuster because there was this double switch. It was this fucking ridiculousness where it went from, if it was a man, it'd be cool to like Metallica, but because I'm a woman, suddenly they're shit testing. So I was like, fuck y'all. Fuck y'all. I just don't give a shit anymore. You can go fuck yourself. And I've largely had this kind of attitude. Now, would I concede that there's a lot of more Canadian men, but yes, they're white, that are fucking gorgeous in Hollywood? Of course. I've openly been lusting over Ryan Reynolds and Ryan Gosling for my whole life, but slightly different because celebrity world is different than real men world, as in, you know, celebrities are almost like fictional characters in fictional movies and other type of media. You're never going to get with them. So there's a difference between what you prefer in a celebrity versus what you would prefer in somebody you interact with. So for the longest time, I actually had no clue that I found white men attractive at all until I was in my 30s. And then I struggled through the largest of up and down roller coasters that you could ever imagine. And I'm still struggling through that because I have no clue what it means. In fact, if you have ever tried to encounter anyone that fights it as much as anyone is me, I fight it all the time, every single time. So, for example, going back to the kink events, when, although I mentioned that I was accepting every single kink request that came to me, and it was all up and down across the board, you know, Asian men, women, and all that, I started realizing that I might have a preference. So then just the statistician in myself, it's like, okay, I'll never bias the data myself, as in, I never approach people, people approach me, and ever since I made that rule, literally it's only been Asian women and white men that approach me. So then my kink track record, if you will, has looked extremely heavily biased, as if I am picking these men, but more accurately, they're picking me, because a lot of them came through, for example, couch surfing, where I put up my picture and I specified what kind of person I am, heavy into extreme sports, all of that, and then the guys chose me. I never had a chance to choose them. In fact, I never asked a single one of them for their pictures or their stats. Some of them would send them without me asking, but I never really paid much attention to it. And we started noticing a trend, because my mom actually helped me assess the safety of couchsurfing hosts. She was my partner in crime in a lot of this. And she used her extensive government audit background to start basically background checking and making sure that as couchsurfing hosts, they would be safe for me to stay with. That was the original intent. Because in couchsurfing is where strangers offer their homes as free room and board, but that's it. There's no sex for couches or sex for accommodation. Does it happen? Yes. So to protect myself, on my profile, I mentioned no sex for couches. So at least from what I would assume, none of the men ever approached it with the explicit intent. In fact, my mom had been known as quite a hard ass. There was one time she called a guy 50 times when I stopped answering my phone during COVID. So my mom laid the groundwork, as in every time I stayed with a couch surfing host, they knew that someone out there, i.e., my mom, loves me and is paying attention to me and tracking my whereabouts. So if you're gonna fuck shit up, like, we're coming after you. And we kept this as a control system, control process for us, so that I could couch surf safely. Now, my original intent was just to couch surf, but sometimes people were attractive. And this is where I started to notice it. They were heavily skewing a certain direction. And I have no clue why. And people have asked me why. And I have no clue why, okay? Why they were tall, ripped, and handsome and into extreme sports. Maybe because I wrote that I was into extreme sports. But then it started looking like I was choosing these guys. And my family, my mom and other people took me aside and was like, hey, listen, there seems to be a bit of a problem here. What's the problem? Well, I mean, these guys are tall and ripped. If you're starting to do things with them in the kink realm, like, you're really opening yourself up to a lot of potential issues here. Like, you're putting some pressure on me, because originally we thought that they were couch surfing hosts and I was insistent on that. And then I started couch surfing, and okay, maybe they ain't just couch surfing hosts, they might turn into kink partners. So then my mom felt extra pressure to make sure that I was okay. And then she would start questioning, like, oh, how tall is too tall now? Are we getting out of hand here? Like 6'5", 6'7"? This is getting out of hand. But I mean, am I choosing them or are they choosing me? I have no clue. All I know is I never directly chose anybody. Okay, when I was approached, when I've still been approached, they choose me. I never choose them, and that's why everything is actually extremely overwhelming. Because I've had a conversation with some of my guy friends about this, and the reality for men versus women is just like night and day. It really is. I think men have absolutely no clue what it feels like to be a woman in this world, and why would they? Why would they? So I am deciding. I'm trying to decide what I want to do, because for a number of years now, essentially COVID and post-COVID, I shaved my head, and the results were obvious. As in, you go from getting overwhelmingly approached to almost never approached, which is exactly what I wanted. Now, almost never still means you get approached a handful of times in 7 months, but a handful of times is much better than all the time. Okay. So where did the switch come in me? Quite honestly, I almost knew that this would happen, but when it happens, it's an absolute clusterfuck. As in, the way that I approached kink with these men, full disclosure, I'm a virgin. Your dick ain't going in my holes, and they know this going in. Like, it's absolutely not happening, and if you want it to happen, game over. So they know this. So, in all of my time kinking, in extremely vulnerable positions, including being tied up, gagged, bound, I've never had a man test those boundaries. Never has a man tried to stick a dick in my holes. And some of these men could have easily done it if they wanted to. Like, you're talking about most guys over 6 feet tall, ripped. They can do it if they wanted to, and they've never even come close. So clearly, we're doing something right, I guess. Risk assessment on point. I have recruited workers, my mom, my family members. It's all working. But, okay, am I 100% successful in screening against all risks? No. Because there have been times where people have gotten out of hand. Even though I'm clear that this is just kink, I view this like an extreme sport, I am moving on. to another country, in fact. Okay? So this is like a one night thing, maybe a several night thing, but it's never going to turn into a long term thing. This is what I've made very clear to every single one of my kink co people, if you will. Well, what am I supposed to call them? Kink partners, okay, for lack of a better term. People that I participate in kink with, okay? That's how I'm going to summarize it as. Okay. So everybody knows. And I never mention the virginity only to people who I potentially kink. This is so much a part of my identity. Chances are, if you run into me, I've somehow mentioned it. This is just as fundamental to my character as the fact that I no kids, no marriage. This is a part of me, okay? I represent myself authentically, is what I'm trying to elucidate here. So have things gone off the rails? Yes, things have gone off the fucking rails. And it only has to go off one time where, okay, do guys ask me to stay? Even though I tell them, don't ask me to stay, yes, they do it. Okay, fine, let that go. Ask you to stay once or twice, message you a couple times. I'm friendly with mostly everybody still, so I mean, I've got no problems against that. Is when it gets into pseudo harassment that things get way out of hand. Okay? It just, I've had people messaging me continuously, DMs, this and that, and sometimes accessing me through burner accounts, and then it just goes off the rails. All you need is actually one or two people to do that, where you're just like, what the fuck is this shit? So that started happening around COVID times. And to be fair, some of my family members thought that I might have been overreacting, but perhaps I'm just the type of person who handles this thing poorly, as in repeated messages or telling me you love me or blah blah blah, idealizing me, barely knowing me but thinking that I'm a certain way absolutely sends me into a tailspin. So when I got the number of people doing that at the same time, I decided, fuck this shit, I am shaving my head. And I did shave my head. Now, a couple of years later, has the head shaving been successful? Yes, the head shaving has been successful in the sense that I am approached only a handful of times a backpacker season, which lasts 5 to 7 months, versus all the time. So, for example, how could I possibly have backpacked through a notoriously difficult country for women like India and been largely okay? Well, my head was shaved, or close to shaved, or short. I covered myself up a lot. And I generally acted poorly, off-putting enough, whatever it takes, okay? I've mastered the anti-male gaze, as my friend joked about. Whatever effort that women place into looking attractive towards men, I place exactly the amount of effort to look unattractive. And it's largely worked. It's been amazing. It's been great. The problem is that long hair serves more than just kink. Long hair is heavy as fuck, hard rocking, and a character in its own for dance. So now I've come to the point where I'm questioning whether I'm doing things for myself anymore. And that's what my friends were trying to explain to me, and I do agree. It's like, okay, so you're still reacting, you're being reactionary. Yes, you're doing it in the opposite way, but it's still a reaction. As in, yes, most women will invest a lot of time in their appearance to look good towards men. You will invest the same amount of time to look bad towards men. But what about asking yourself, in a world where you were to eliminate the men factor, what would you be doing? And I'm still struggling through that. I have no clue what I'd be doing. I mean, quite honestly, I probably would have longer hair. I mean, it's already starting to grow out. But I've been experimenting with different combinations. For example, what if I cover my hair, but I have long hair? That might work. It's almost like converting to Islam, but for my own purposes, right? Secular head covering, right? And that's perfectly okay, because that's the whole point of feminism, is that women can choose. If they want to do this, they can do that. The problem is that you're still dealing with the real world and the way the real world is. I'm going to say there is a lot of baggage that comes along with being an Asian woman. Just things that you do are viewed with a completely different lens. For example, a couple of years ago, my first iteration in Africa, I was largely doing the thing like oversized clothes, stealing family members' clothes, 6 foot tall men clothes, just stealing and wearing the thing. And I remember there was a party where we were supposed to dress up in costumes, and the costumes were various levels of revealing. So on my bush camping safari group, for fun, I just let one of the other girls pick my outfit. The outfit happened to be a crop top that shows off my stomach. And without being gratuitous now, if anyone's interested, I have plenty of videos of me dancing. You can see my stomach. I look good, if you will. My own opinion. I've had various level of comments, mostly from other women, and I'm happy with my body, but I never go actively really showing my body when I'm traveling. So when I showed up to this costume party with a crop top, like the reaction was absolutely insane, even in the middle of Africa. Suddenly, there were questions of whether I was a sex worker. I was just like, well, I'm honored that you think I could be one. I bring disrepute to that industry by being a fucking virgin. Again, I've been asked, actually, especially at kink events, because I think my authenticity shows. Yeah, I've been offered to do porn, sex work, and I've never been interested in it because the the operative word in sex work is work. I ain't working for anything. I'm pro work if you want to work, including sex work, but I ain't working. So it is what it is. But for fuck's sake, I have no answers to my questions at this point. Like, as in, I guess straight up, people who have met me recently can already tell hair is starting to grow back out. My question is, how long am I going to grow it? Will I travel with it? Will I go on the road with it? Will I? I have no clue. I have no clue. But I have gone long vlog because there's some art that I want to create. And I have no clue what this art will be, but I have an idea of what it might be. And riffing like this, vlogging like this off the cuff, is the absolute best way for me to start as a rough draft. So I think I had some messages on my previous vlog about You could have just boiled this Jasleen vlog down to 3 minutes. And maybe strictly related to Jasleen Singh and Akaash Singh, that's right. But I often use vlogs to just go off on my own creative tangent. Partially therapy, partially creative, who knows what. And there's been a lot that has happened that I've had to just vomit diarrhea out on video. I've tested this across lifetime. And sitting down and writing is the slowest method for me. Actually, live talking has been the best method. Even just recording with no live is 50% less effective than just talking live. Many reasons for that. I mean, I started live vlogging mostly so that my family would know that I'm safe while on the road. And I'm continuing this because, I often disappear for days, weeks, months at a time, and people have no idea what's happened to me. And I basically vlog so that people know that I'm still around. But quite honestly, even if one of these days a whale takes me out, it is what it is because I choose this life. And that's going back to the risk analysis. I've done some of the wildest shit before I've even considered a dick in my holes. Last year, I broke speed records with wingsuiting world champion Vincent Dickhole. He's the only person in the world that does tandem wingsuiting, which is a tandem skydive with a wingsuit. How wacko this is that other people who were skydivers were in awe of us. Like, this is how rare this type of situation is. Even Vincent, when he was briefing me, was like, okay, I do this commercially and I'm the only one who does it, and it's safe enough, but I would still categorize this as a stunt. And I've done that before this. But one of the premises of why I've done that before this, dick in holes, is because I think people have been limited by their biology, by culture, telling them this is a worthwhile set of activities, marriage, kids, all that. And people just download and accept this pre-template without thinking about whether it's actually worthwhile. That's why if I were to criticize Jasleen, it'd actually be on all these other things. Like, what the fuck is up with the Meow Meow and the Chanel and all this? Like, my opinion, there was an iteration of me that wore brands because Stephanie, the only Asian or one or two Asians in her school, got teased for wearing Meng Lung Feng jeans, no brand jeans from Hong Kong. And mostly people wearing brands are just looking for love that they aren't able to give themselves. Just like dicks going in holes is a proxy for self-love. A lot of things are a proxy for self-love. So if I were to contest Jasleen Singh, instead of simping for her, the question would be, why? Like, why the Chanel bags? Why the this? And she has mentioned that coming from money insecurity when you're young, this is her way of helping that, as in maybe helping through some of that trauma. But my suggestion would be maybe there's another way to do it. As in, if you can all afford it, maybe great. I still think from an environmental standpoint, all that's pointless. Right? She has probably religious cultural reasons why maybe marriage was already a foregone conclusion. And in the situations, default along gender roles, I guess. As in, male earns money, female stays at home and is a housewife. I have no clue. But the thing is that Jasleen's also highly educated, although no offense, man. True STEM, electrical engineering, her fake STEM. Yes, data analytics, but business degree. And I can make these jokes because I have a number of people in my family who just have business degrees, and we're always talking about how that's a bullshit degree compared to STEM. All right. But I mean, in any case, I also understand why Jasleen might be absolutely burned out on work because she did the Goldman Sachs Deloitte consulting route, and I had considered doing that myself. And this is where I just find it hilarious, as in, people in STEM can talk shit about people in business, but all these other jokers who've never done anything educationally, I challenge you. As in, if you talk shit about Jasleen being lazy, blah blah, whatever, what have you done? Because the reality is, a lot of people have done nothing. Like, they think they work hard, especially white people. Like, you ain't no jack shit about working hard, honestly. Okay? This is my mom's old white boys are stupid coming out, but it's true. Like, as in, I think the level of hard work that a lot of Asians, including Indians, go through is something that you would never really be able to conceptualize as white people, because I've quite honestly never encountered a white person that had the work ethic of an Asian person, even Canadian or American born Asians, which all of us are. As in, I'm Canadian born, Jasleen and Akaash are American born, but the level of hard work is like night and day. There's a reason why they had essentially anti-affirmative actions against Asians for the Ivy League schools, because if you're just talking about pure hard work, nobody out hustles Asian people. And the thing is that the majors that they tend to go into requires that. As in, you ain't skateboarding your way through electrical engineering. There's absolutely no way you are surfing the waves through electrical engineering. There's no way. I know this as a fact, as a top performer too. There's just no way. So, I'm sounding like Vivek, but it's true. So I actually understand where Jasleen's coming from, as in, she just wants to fucking take a rest, and she can do it on Akash's dime, and they have that arrangement. But I also think it'd be premature to stop her. I know I was watching Andrew Schultz, Akash's comedian friend from Flagrant, do his other podcast with Charlemagne, and they were both joking about how, he should shut down Jasleen's podcast because she's humiliating and embarrassing Akaash. But I mean, is she really? That's the thing. Spouses and significant others of comedians get absolutely roasted on both sides, right? On both sides. So Ali Wong's done it to her ex-husband. This is just par for the course. I do it to my family members, and they do it to me all the time, in public, in private. Maybe I just have an extremely high tolerance. And maybe that's what I'm thinking that people are lacking now. Is they just have such low tolerance. Even for the greats like Dave Chappelle. It's like, what the fuck is going on, people? Can you maybe reserve this level of vitriol for people who deserve it? Your government? Alright, I think I've talked myself out. Have I? Am I done now? An hour and a fucking half, dude. Okay, at this rate, I should have gone through everything that I've wanted to so far. And if I need to come back again, then I come back again. This is my fucking vlog. I can do whatever the fuck I want, right? Alright. Yeah, I think an hour and a half is good. Time to nap.